Okay.
Right. Well, I'm waiting to connect, Jim, but
No problem.
chances are, right, that we're live already and we haven't noticed. Right, quite possible, and I think that's the case. Right, morning everybody on the Norwich Guide Dog Forum Facebook page, as you do. It's Lana Hempsel here, and I'm one of the coordinators. And today, I'm here with Jim Watt, who you obviously know far better than I do, because as we were joking, Jim's a bit of a legend. It's not just because of his
My wonderful guide dog.
For all sorts of reasons, yeah, with his guide dog legend by his feet. Is he by your feet? Is legend by your feet, Jim?
He's just in front of me. I'm getting the sad eyes looking at me. So come on, Dad.
Going, Dad, what are you doing? Who are you talking to? Right. So Jim is with me today because we're carrying on with our theme of music, especially because, well, in the visually impaired community, it's and actually generally, music is actually quite important, and not just listening to it and enjoying it in that way, but actually making music and playing music and writing music and singing music. It matters just to our well-being, mental and physical, and all sorts. I mean, tomorrow we've got Matt from NVIDIA Voices coming to the Norwich Guide Dog Forum, so I invite you all to come along to that, because Matt has just done amazing things, across the board, and the way it's structured, it doesn't just it's not just there for able-bodied people. As the visually impaired person, I've managed to slot in really well myself, so I invite you all to come and watch us tomorrow afternoon at 2:00. But today I've got Jim Watt, who is ready and poised with all sorts of instruments. He's going to tell us about his music, aren't you, Jim, and how you got, where did it all start for you? Are you okay to talk to us a bit about your site and how that's affected you, or how did you start with your music, and how did that take shape for you? Because it's very different when you have a bit of sight, or if you have none at all. It makes a huge difference. So what was your journey like from the beginning? How did you get started?
I started as a young boy. I grew up in the early 60s, late 50s, early 60s, and it was the explosion of what we now class, like popular music, with the Beatles, the Shadows, Cliff Richard, Elvis was about, and it was a wonderful time for music. And as a young lad, we lived near building sites, and me and a couple of friends up the street, we used to go out, pinch a few scaffold boards, put them on paint pots or whatever we could find, grab our tennis rackets and cricket bats, and make out we were the band playing.
That's brilliant.
And that's how it sort of started. And then as I grew up into, before I was 10, they bought me a plastic guitar, which I wish I had to this day, because it's worth a fortune.
Is it?
It's a collector's piece. It was just like a orange plastic guitar with all the Beatles signatures on it, and it was a Beatles special. It's actually a collector's piece. I wish I still had it. That goes through a lot of my guitars through my career. But I did pick up a little bit through that, and with that I pinched my dad's Shadows LPs, because I was just in awe with the Shadows. And so I would pick a guitar with the guitar and try to find the notes they were playing, and that is basically how I learned. So you get that.
Oh, so you would literally do it by ear from start, would you?
Sorry?
You would do it by ear from the start, would you?
Absolutely, from the start. I mean, I had no knowledge of music. No one else in the family really played. Mm-hmm. Although about that time, I did find that one of my uncles played in a band. Mm-hmm. And I remember he done one of my, I'm just putting his guitar down, he done one of my aunt's weddings.
Yeah.
And I do remember he let me sit in one of the armchairs one day and have a strum on it with it across the arms of the armchair. And we went to the wedding, and I remember being fascinated by watching these guitarists. It's the first time I'd been really up close and personal with a guitar player. And I remember watching just the index finger moving certain places on the fretboard.
Yeah.
And I swore that one day I would learn that song.
Oh.
And it is one of the first songs that I ever learned. And it's sitting in the morning sun. I'll be sitting till the evening comes. That sort of thing. And that was it. That was what I remembered. And I learned, I wanted to learn it, you know.
You did tell you what, I could tell myself that as well, but I just couldn't get on with guitars. It was one of the most freely available. It's kind of, it's not that expensive to buy into if you want to start learning, but
no, it isn't.
God, I just couldn't get. Sorry for blaspheming people who I know are listening. Sorry, Cynthia. I couldn't get my head around the frets. I just actually couldn't. And holding down.
It took me a long while, even quite a long while into what I would class as my musical career. You know, because I learned. I didn't have any lessons, not really. I used to go and play with a couple of people, and they used to show me little bits and pieces. And during that time, because you know, my inspiration in the sort of late '60s became like the Searchers, the Rockin' Berries, and Marmalade, stuff like that. And I was lucky enough in my later career to actually play on stage with these guys, which I absolutely loved.
Do you actually play on stage with them?
Yes, I have.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Rockin' Berries, Fortunes, Searchers, Marmalade. I've been on stage with all of those at one point or another, either just sort of filling in or with backing support bands or whatever. We used to go around the circuit later on in my career. But I went through so many guitars. All I know that when I first I didn't have the money to buy my first guitar. I was a young lad, and my parents had to sign the HP agreement for me and guarantor me to buy my first guitar. And all I know I wanted at the time, I didn't know anything about guitars, not really, was I needed this whammy bar, what they call a whammy vibrato, so which gives me that that and that was all I knew that I wanted. So I managed to buy a cheap guitar on HP, and that launched me into my first forage into playing out with different bands. That was in around 1973, 74. And it was a band
from wondering whether we should explain the concept of HP to people under the age of 30.
Higher purchase.
I know. It's one of the first available forms of credit. You could buy pretty much anything on it, couldn't you?
You did, yeah. But I mean, because I was a young lad and it wasn't working, I had to put my paper rounds, so I had to work it so that I saved the original deposit, and then I had to make sure that I had enough paper round money coming in to pay the monthly deposits, you know, the monthly payments, and that's how it was, you know. And I absolutely loved it, and I went out and I started playing.
What was your sight like back then? Were you fully sighted?
As a teenager, I started to suffer with Stargardts.
Oh, so you got Stargardts too? Oh, I have, snap.
But for those people who have sight loss, don't know about Stargardts. Stargardts is a form of macular degeneration. That hit me as a young boy, as a teenager. So by the time I was 18, it had gone right through its course, and I was registered blind. It came on those few years. I mean, as a young boy, because it was a new thing, or it wasn't understood when I was that age. And so when I was going to the hospital to have my sight checked on a regular basis, they would bring all the students in to have a look because they hadn't seen it in someone of my age, you know. So it was an interesting time, but I was playing out a lot, and I managed to enjoy it. But I also got introduced at that time different genres of music, because I was like just the Shadows and that sort of era. And then I got introduced to like Eric Clapton and the Eagles and all that sort of stuff. And I was playing with the bands playing all the Eagles stuff and stuff like that. So you would get, let's have a think what we got. You know, so all the different Eagles sounds that you would get, you know. From different Eagles songs, and Eric Clapton, and a big influence on me was Carlos Santana at the time. So I was going through quite a few different artists at the time that had a big influence on me as I progressed.
Yeah, he is an extraordinary guitarist. He was extraordinary, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, it was something different. It was all new, you know. Well, it's the same with all of those musicians at the time. It was a new genre of music, new styles of music, and the styles of playing. I mean, Carlos Santana, I could never get that sound until I sat and watched a video, and they explained that you need a thick pick, very thick, and you don't just play the string. He actually gets the pick underneath the string and plucks it as though you're pulling it off the fretboard.
Oh, really?
That's how he gets that sound.
Oh, right.
You know?
That sounds like hard work, Jim.
Yeah, and like Brian May of the Queen.
Yeah.
He used an old sixpence coin.
Yes.
You know, to get that sound. He got that double-edged sound. And I got really quite interested in that. So I started playing. Then from there, I went on into a 70s, 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s band. And we were together for about 12 years. We would go out 2 or 3 times a week. We cut one album.
That must have been so much fun, right?
It was absolutely wonderful. We were called Good Company, and we would go all over East Anglia, down to London, up to Peterborough, all around the East Coast on a regular basis. And like all bands, arguments started to happen. So I said, that's it. I gave up, and I had a little bit of time off and just pleased myself. And then the bass
You did a Robbie Williams, did you?
Well, I just done my own thing. But during that time, during the late 70s, the CBs came out, and I met a lifelong friend of mine who had the first I'd ever seen of these little portable keyboards.
Yes. Yeah.
And he let me have a play, and I transposed the chords I had onto that and learned to play keyboards. So I played piano and keyboards from then. I normally got
it's just so cool.
I normally have one beside me, but it's broken down on me, which it's horrible because I miss it so much.
Yeah.
But I got dragged by him into a country and western band, and we played a minimum
that
3
circuit's
nights.
Massive in East Anglia as well, isn't it?
A minimum of 3 nights a week. It was Jenny and Broken Spoke. We cut 3 albums. They would play all our albums on all the local radio stations.
Yeah.
You know, Roy Waller and all that lot.
Yeah.
And we do.
Is it Keith Greentree who does Radio Norfolk these days?
Yeah,
that he goes round.
We used to do shows like Strumshaw and places like that.
Yeah.
Go up to West Winch and places like that to play at different clubs and whatever.
Scott's a big fan of country and western, isn't he? Our Scott, isn't he?
I mean, we had a female singer. She was wonderful, and she could do the Patsy Clines like you wouldn't believe. And so I had to learn how to play crazy on the piano, and and we'd done all that sort of stuff. And it was a wonderful, wonderful time until about 2002, when, bless her, she had cancer of the throat.
That's just not fair.
No,
that's just really not fair, is it?
And what made it worse is when she had to quit the band, her husband played lead guitar in the band as well. He quit as well. So that was the end of it, unfortunately. And I had some time off again. And I thought to myself, you know what? My wife has always been there beside me through thick and thin, supporting me every gig that I ever done through my life. It's about time we've done something together. So I bought all the karaoke equipment to go out and do karaoke. Yeah. So we could do it together. We've done that. And then from there, I started getting gigs in pubs. And then a pub came up. And I said to my wife, you know, we could do that. We could do that. So we took on a pub. And absolutely loved it.
Oh.
You know, I'd still be there now if I hadn't had the second injury to my eye.
Yeah.
That's knocked me right over the edge. I can't pull a pint anymore, you know. But once a week, every Thursday, I used to run a jam night as well, as long as all the other entertainment. And I met some wonderful people during that and got some, you know, great feedback. We were there one night and we had a bunch of Americans come in. Can we have a go? And my wife jokingly said, well, yes, but you've got to be able to play, because Jim's not going to let you get up there if you can't play. You know, he's got some decent gear. It was Kid Rock. It was Kid Rock's backing and support bands that were over here on the tour on Lakenheath Base. And we had a phenomenal night. I mean, absolutely amazing. And I said to the guitarist who borrowed my guitar, where's the switch on it that makes it sound like that? Because it doesn't sound like that when I play it, you know. But I sort of stuck at it. And then when I had my accident and really my eyesight went to pieces, I came out of the pub and we moved out, and I just settled down to play my guitar for my own enjoyment. And then I thought, you know what, technology is moving on with backing tracks and stuff like that. So I put together a show, about 3 hours show, and I'd done all the shadows from track one of theirs right up to Hank Marvin playing on his own through different albums. And I put about a 3 hour show together, and I used to go out and do that for a little while till lockdown happened, at least.
Oh gosh, lockdown. Yeah, we're all loving that one, aren't we?
Aren't we just?
I can't believe, because we had our little coffee morning, didn't we, beginning of the week, and I was like, how's everybody loving lockdown?
Yeah, so
and it's one of those. We're 10 days in.
Basics of doing, you know, my musical career. I mean, I'm not as clever as Mike. I'm not very good at writing songs and improvisation. I do all mine are covers, or I take a cover track and I modify it to suit my style of playing, because I'm not one of God's gifted guitar players. If I don't play, I lose it. I'm not one of these God-given gifts. It's something I've always had to work at. So when people say to me, "Oh, I wish I could play guitar," well, do it.
Yes.
Do it. You know.
And do you know what occurred to me when you said that as a kid that you were up on scaffolding boards performing? Because they always say you have to, you know, see it before you be it, or be a bit, but you have to actually embody it and do it. And all of a sudden, if you see yourself in those certain situations, and then it happens, doesn't it?
See, unfortunately, what happens to a lot of people is when they go to play guitar, they get a couple of months in and their fingers are hurting, they're sore, they're raw.
Hands up, that's me. And
the trouble is, they're bought. And I'm not knocking anybody, because I've done the same. You buy a cheaper guitar because you're only learning. And the trouble is, the shops or wherever you buy it from, they don't set the guitar up. It's just as it comes out the factory. And if it's set up properly, just about any guitar out there on the market can be made so nice and easy to play. Yes, you'll go through a little bit of soreness, but it won't be half so bad.
Oh goodness, I say that, but I can't even do braille, Jim, because I end up, I'll do it for a little bit, and I'm going to chill my fingertips off because it just is so overstimulated. So the guitar really kind of isn't for me. Even I can't play. I don't play so much. It's piano.
I mean, what I've done on my guitars, because once my eyesight really went, I couldn't see the little markers on the fretboard. So I bought little sticky rubber feet, very thin, but enough that as I run my finger down the top of the neck, I can feel them. And they're on the top of the neck of all my guitars. So I can feel it as my thumb passes, I know where I am. And that's helped me a great deal. I wouldn't be able to play really anything without them on there, because I can't pick out the frets, I can't see the other dots otherwise, but they are there under the thumb, so that makes life easier for me. And it's just a matter of sticking to it.
It is, isn't it? It really is. And but if it's something you love, then you just carry on doing it. So.
Look, the Shadows was my first love as a young boy, 4, 5, 6 years old. you know, with my tennis bat, with Cliff Richard and the Shadows on the wireless, and I would be away, you know. It's gone on from there, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Do you want to play a few more bits for us? That would be lovely before you end up moving on. So
yeah, absolutely.
Have you got anything ready for us? Are you going to announce it proper musician styly, or oh, tell me, right before you start.
Yeah.
Has Scott come in with a request yet? Because he took me completely by surprise. No, he
hasn't. No, he hasn't. He hasn't.
Because he's had warning. I just wondered if he got in before me.
I've got a sound queued. I've got the song queued up on my backing tracks.
Brilliant.
And because I've got with the Shadows through their career, the echoes that you hear behind it changes through different songs. So I'm lucky enough now to have an amplifier that allows me to save hundreds of different types of echo. And the particular one, don't know if you can hear that.
Yeah.
That's Apache. That's the Apache sound. So I've got that set in. So we'll have a quick minute or so on that. So ease that off there. But that's, you know, that was one of the first songs I ever learnt, really, or partly learnt.
So what? Yeah, that. Did you play that for us? I'm sure I've heard you play that for us before.
I have done that one before. I mean, it goes on. I mean,
yeah. So Jim, so you put that three-hour show on. Is that something you're going to return to post COVID?
I hope so. I mean, I've done most of it. Really, I've done it all. A lot later, after, you know, the last couple of years, I've done for charities, or I do old folks' homes or stuff like that, and I don't charge. You know, I ask that they donate through their own way a little bit towards guide dogs or something like that. You know? But,
does Legend come on the gigs?
Yes,
too?
Legend actually, because I'm not loud. I'm not ear-burstingly loud.
Yeah.
So he's quite happy to lay down beside my amplifier, you know, which is above his head, sort of thing, and he just lays there, and people just laugh at him because he's like, "Hey, I'm here again, and I don't care."
So where can people get in touch with you if they want to?
They can use Facebook. They can grab an email from me. I will post a picture with the sort of thing I can do. I'm more than happy to come out to people's parties. If they can get me there, I'll come and play and do whatever I can.
Yeah, that would be. Tell you what, when we're done and this is all posted, etc., I'll you can post some details on there, and then that would be quite nice. Okay, cool. Oh God, Jim, do you know, it's been so lovely talking to you, and thank you so much for playing your instruments and you know, just sharing your story. And it's a
really nice thing to do. If you've got any interest at all, you're bored because of lockdown, I will happily get on a messenger chat
or Zoom and
do a one-to-one with whoever's on there and talk you where to put your fingers, and I would do anything to help.
Yeah, well, that's also a thought, because there seems to be so much going on, but learning a new skill, I think, is probably one of those things we should all have on our bucket list to do whenever we have a lockdown, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Because
mean,
something good has got to come of this, right, Jim? Something good.
absolutely. I get frustrated with myself if I don't pick my guitar up for a couple
Yeah.
of days, and then I go to play something, and then I make a mistake, and I think I'm bored now, I'm gonna put it away.
Mm,
And you can't be like that.
no.
So like I say, what I have is not a God-given gift. I have to work at it, and it's worth it for what you get from it.
Yeah, I think that's actually a common myth. I know there are some extraordinarily talented people out there,
Yes.
but I think most will hide how much work they actually have to put into it to get to where they are. There's my middle boy, he was extremely good at his violin. He just had a really good ear, and violin's one of those instruments that when you're young and practicing, it can sound really awful, and he never did because his pitch is so good. He gave up in the end, but I don't think he actually realized just how good
Yeah.
he was or is, because he's given it up completely now and won't touch it.
I
Goodness.
think, yeah, it was during my years at school. I took up playing the flute when I was at school in my later years.
Ah, yeah. Oh,
Um,
see that kind of band in my house. It's just any
yeah,
recorders, any flutes, any. We only had string instruments in this
yeah.
house. It was
I,
just, Mummy can't do
I mean,
it.
I think, and that was when I realised how bad my eyesight was getting. Because I
Mm,
would be in the orchestra, and through the music lessons at school, I learned to read the music and stuff like that. But I
mm,
was getting closer and closer and closer to the music,
mm,
and in the end, I just couldn't see it anymore to do it.
mm, mm.
And as it was time for me to leave school anyway. It
Yeah.
wasn't until I left school that I found out how bad my eyes really, really were, because my intentions on leaving school was to join the army.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I got failed on my medical
Uh-huh.
because of my eyes.
Yeah, they.
And that was
But tell
when
you
I
what,
realised,
Jim, it happens to a lot of people
yeah.
anyway. So not
And,
people with
go
Stargardt's
from,
disease.
yeah, and go
They're
from
kind of not picking on you.
no, but I mean, as someone who had the sight, and
Yeah.
then it has deteriorated. As a young lad, I grew up. When I get older, I'm going to get the car and I'm going to do this. And I went into a real bout of depression at
Mm,
15 years old, not being able to join, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to drive. And
mm,
all I had to go back was my guitars.
mm.
So that was
Oh
what
dear,
got me through.
Stargardt just sucks, doesn't it? Because it comes
Yes.
up at a time of your life when uh, it obviously, because I've got it, basically it starts affecting your eyes when they reach maturity, because up until then the growth hormone keeps supporting it with
Yeah.
whatever it is, and then it starts going and you reach 15, and life's a bit rubbish anyway, because socially being a teenager is just yeah, it's not a brilliant time of life anyway for a lot of teenagers. And to have to deal with a
Yeah.
progressive eyesight condition as well, it's just horrendous. I mean,
I think,
I
you
used
know,
to hide it. Did you, Jim?
yes, I did.
Yeah.
I found that, I mean, now it's different, but back then there was no support
No,
out there.
no,
There was no internet. I mean,
no.
if we wanted to make a phone call, it was to the end of the street to the phone box
Yeah,
to talk to anybody.
yeah,
So there was no real support out there
no,
for Stargardts, because when I was a young lad, it wasn't really known about.
no.
And now at least there's someone to talk to,
Mm.
and uh, there
I know
are.
that the support is so much better. I remember speaking to
It is. I mean, there are macular support groups out there,
mm, mm,
but people who are coming up with Stargardts don't really know about it.
mm,
And
mm.
it's up to the community, if you like, to try and reach out to these people
Yeah,
and give them the support they need, because I
yeah.
felt so lost.
Oh, completely. Well, you walk out of the hospital and, after you've been sat down and somebody has very kindly explained to you that you've got 15 years of usable sight left, and then you're going to be completely registered blind.
Yeah,
And you go, oh, so what can you do to help me? Oh, sorry, nothing. As they're leaving the room, here's the number for the RNIB. And you just go,
yeah,
pardon?
yeah.
really? Is this
Exactly.
it? Is this it? And you sit there with your parent and you just go, that's it. The rest of your life just whoop, snatched
Yeah.
away. You go,
Absolutely.
right.
You know, I mean, I'm not taking away from anybody who's had sight loss all their life, but
yeah, it's it just
when I said to somebody once, "I'm sorry that you've been like that," they said, "Well, I'm not, because I've grown up with it. It's how I live. It's
yeah.
you know." And then they switched the tables on me. So, well, I'm sorry for you because you had sight and now you haven't. You've suffered that loss and
But
live with it. Does that make
yeah.
sense?
Well, of course it does, and I have to say that through survival instinct, being visually
Yes,
impaired kind of becomes part of your identity, doesn't it?
it's
Because
done.
you've
Yeah.
done, yeah, you did not terribly well at school. Well, you've been visually impaired. You didn't do
Yeah.
terribly well at university. Visually impaired. Yeah, your
Yes.
opportunities were shut down to you during your lifetime, so you haven't had all the life chances everybody else. Yes, that's because I'm visually impaired. And you think, if somebody gave you your sight back today, what would you have left? You'd have a lifetime
Yeah.
of just like, why did you do badly at school then? Well, it's because I was visually impaired, but now I've got my full sight back. And they'd go, oh, well, that's a shame, and move on. It's become part of your identity, doesn't it? It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Anyway, right, we digress. Jim, I'm going to say bye to you. Are you
Thank you very
joining us
much.
for the forum tomorrow? Have you got time?
Absolutely.
Brilliant,
Be
brilliant. Because this is a bit of a coup. I've got Clive Lewis MP, who is the constituency MP for Norwich South, who is yeah, I'm told he doesn't attend very many events. It would be absolutely amazing to have him on tomorrow, because
Absolutely.
the Annesley is, well, it's based in his constituency, so it would just be really, really, really lovely to have him on. And I've got Matt from NVIDIA Voices, who's going to tell us about all of his projects that I've been dutifully missing because well, once lockdown started, Matt just literally went on a tangent and everything started happening on Zoom, and I can't sing at home because it's just too embarrassing. Sort of I can't, when the sessions are on, for me to sort of shut myself in a room and sing to a computer, I just can't do it. It's
it is hard to get inspiration. I mean, it's not until I know that I'm going to go out and play that I really start to practice a lot.
Yeah, I live in a house with 3 teenagers, and actually to have them, cringe every time the mummy practices, that would just be dreadful. So yeah. So anyway, but Matt does amazing things regardless, which might tune in with somebody. And Shelley's coming. Who's the manageress at the hotel at the Annesley. So that's going to be really, really, really sweet. So
brilliant. They're very supportive.
Right. Oh God, she's just so lovely. She's just so lovely. And I think that's what, that's what, as a visually impaired person, I suppose you come across, is that people who support us and do give us their time and energy are just such incredible, warm, lovely human beings.
Yes.
And I guess that's the blessing of it, isn't it? You
Yes.
come across generosity of spirit, and from the puppy walkers to the volunteers to everybody who's involved with guide dogs, from staff, everybody's has just got the kindest heart ever. And you combine that with the love of animals as well, and it really is an incredible community that we're part of, and it's just really lovely, isn't it?
Wonderful.
So, yeah. Right. Okay. On that note, Jim, I shall see you tomorrow, and I will bid everybody on Facebook goodbye. I really, really hope this has gone on, because if it hasn't, I've got so carried away with our conversation, I don't think I've got a recording backup. Anyway, on that note, thanks to everybody on Facebook. Thanks to you, Jim, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.